Okay, so while he's probably not going to make his debut today, we have ourselves Tyler Pitlick instead, coming into the Habs lineup against the Panthers. Let's talk today about the newest Montreal Canadiens defenseman acquired in the Colorado Avalanche Lehkonen trade, Justin Barron. Now, I know in the previous video, I was kind of memeing around unintentionally saying Justin Barron, and yeah, I know, it looks French, it feels French. Unfortunately, though, Barron is from Nova Scotia instead of Quebec, so it is Justin Barron instead of Barron. But either way, we have ourselves a profile for the guy that is probably the highest up there right-handed defenseman prospect in the system already. Barron is a guy, as we went over the profile in the trade video, 6'2", 194 right-handed defenseman, signed to his entry-level contract till the end of 2024, 20 years old, from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and because the Canadiens really only have, Logan Mailloux as their right-hand defenseman depth in their prospect system, Barron, already being a pro guy playing in the AHL, is de facto the best guy in the system. So what I wanted to do in this video is just talk about what exactly Barron is, what he could be, and the overall profile heading into the next few seasons for this Canadiens acquisition. So, Barron is a guy that was drafted in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft in the first round, 25th overall. Up to this point in the QMJHL for the Halifax Mooseheads, he was a pretty dynamic offensive defenseman that had some good two-way ability to his game as well. His draft year, 2019-20, was slowed down via injuries, but it's kind of funny because the statistics are really similar from his draft -1 to his draft year. In his -1, he had 68 games played and 41 points. In his draft year, he had half the games played, and he had half the points, half the goals, half the assists. It's very strange how everything combines to being pretty much identical. His season after, though, in 2020-2021, was a lot better. He played 33 games, he had a point per game in those games as the captain of the Mooseheads, and he made his debut with the Colorado Eagles later in that campaign. He had 4 points in 7 games, but that was only 7 games. It was just an introductory sample to the league. He was also over a point per game in the postseason for the Eagles as well. This season, though, with the Eagles, he's got 20 points in 43 games played, half a point a game, not bad in the slightest for a 20-year-old guy making his first full-on rookie season in pro hockey, but now he's in the Montreal Canadiens system and suiting up for the team, hopefully sometime on the weekend, as we were projecting to see based off of what Kent Hughes in the media had to say. We have ourselves a guy that is very, very intriguing because when you look at Justin Barron highlights, the first thing you might notice is this guy's able to really move with the puck, especially in the offensive zone. He's not afraid to go out there and walk the line once in a while, and the few goals that he scores with his great shot are usually catalyzed by his ability to either move with the puck, walking the line, or, when he doesn't have the puck, find himself into open space in order to receive a pass and laser it from there. He's really not afraid to get involved in the offense, and that's something that I think a lot of Canadiens fans are not really used to when it comes to watching their prospects, because you take a look at Alexander Romanov, for example. He was a big shutdown guy in the KHL. Sure, he really exploded offensively at the World Juniors, but that was one tournament out of the however many games he played in regular league play. You have some other guys, sure, Jordan Harris can put up points, you have Jaden Struble doing his thing as well, but when it comes to what Justin Barron does best when he has the puck and when he wants to create offense, there isn't really anybody in the offensive zone that I think is like that, aside from, I guess you could say, Mailloux, but you could debate whether or not the effectiveness of a Mailloux is as potent as Justin Barron had been in the QMJHL. But for Barron, as we said, he's got a really good shot. He's not afraid to one-time it on net. He's not afraid to walk the line. It's really nice what he's able to exhibit. He's got a big frame. He's not afraid to be physical, especially along the boards. It's a really good defensive shutdown trait of his to be able to suffocate play on the half boards and in the corners. It's something that I think as his career goes on, we'll see more and more of as he progresses into the NHL. But there are some more things that I think he definitely should be able to work on as he becomes more mature. Mostly decision-making, vision, things like these need to be ironed out a little bit. There have been some pretty interesting highlights of him in the AHL, and some defensive lapses once in a while. He's not perfect, of course. He's only 20 years old, for crying out loud. But as he adapts more to NHL pace and the tendencies of NHL coaching and forechecks, he'll likely, I think he's smart enough to be able to adapt to the game around him, keep his head up, make sure that he's actually doing the right things and making the proper decisions when he has the puck in his own zone trying to break it out. There are some things that need to be ironed out, but he is so young that it's not something that I'm too concerned about at this point in time. Plus, with a coach like Marty St. Louis at the helm, I certainly do think that there's a lot more that Barron has to learn and can learn once he makes his NHL debut sometime on the weekend. Let's go over some scouting reports here on Elite Prospects and Dobber Prospects as to what Barron is as a player. He produces points in two ways, according to the EP 2020 Draft Guide. Through the rush and with his shot from the blue line, he loves to transport the puck up ice, accelerating away from forecheckers while switching from one skating lane to the next. When he breaks into the offensive zone, he looks to cut to the slot or drop a pass to a teammate. Those are also some traits that we don't really see too much out of when it comes to Canadiens defensemen. I guess you could say Jeff Petrie likes to carry the puck out himself into the neutral zone, but into the offensive zone, Barron is kind of a breath of fresh air, especially when you consider how the Canadiens played a season under Dominique Ducharme where dump and chase hockey was the norm. Tony Ferrari of Dobber Prospects says that Barron is a jack-of-all-trades defender, good in every area of the ice. He isn't flashy, but he is effective. Sam Constantino said that Barron was one of the top skaters and mobile defenders of this draft. He's destined to play top 4 minutes for a number of years. Then you had yourselves an interview actually done. This is on Montreal Hockey Now, published a few days ago by Marco D'Amico. Canadiens Barron has the tools to be a solid piece. What they did was they interviewed the Colorado Eagles coach Greg Cronin and asked him about the guy and said, hey, Justin Barron, what kind of player is he, this and that. How would you go about describing Justin Barron? As a person, he's a real quality guy, good teammate, very coachable, and very low-maintenance person. Comes from a good family, has a good value system, humble and coachable, and I've enjoyed working with him. By the way, those are just some of the comments that you really like to see, right? I mean, we saw the interview that Justin Barron did where he was answering questions in French, and no disrespect to the guy, because I'm definitely in the same boat, but the guy speaks French like I speak French. Je suis vraiment excité, and yeah, you know, stuff like that. It's awesome, because you know he's trying, and you know, based off of the smile he had at the end of the interview, that he put his best foot forward, and at the end of the day, that's one of the best qualities you can have in a person, isn't it? They also asked Cronin, what about Barron as a player? He's a very interesting player, the coach said. I coached with Randy Carlyle a few years ago, and his gauge was, after 240 games, be it AHL, NHL, you kind of get a grip of what a player is. During those 240 games, players will develop and mature into an identity as a player, so it's hard to really identify what he is at this stage. As a defenseman, Barron is unique because he can be a shutdown D because of his size, the reach, and the athleticism, but he can also chip in offensively because he's got good sense, good hands, and a good shot. I think he does a lot of things well. It's more a question of what he's going to do really well to help him distinguish himself and create that unique identity. They talked about his adaptation from going from junior to the AHL. The coach says he thinks that Barron is at the beginning of his maturation. People underestimate when a player goes from, say, Halifax to an AHL locker room. That's why the Avalanche brought him in this year. It accelerates that process because you're playing against better players, there's better IQ on the ice, and a more demanding schedule. During that time, you'll be able to identify strengths and weaknesses, but what you don't know is how quickly they're going to respond to coaching that's trying to promote growth. He's a great kid. He's going to do everything in his power to be a Montreal Canadien. I can guarantee that. They ask him as well what is the thing he needs to work on most. He needs to play aggressively. Play with an aggressive edge, not just being physical, but that aggressive style. Whether it's carrying the puck up ice, going back for breakouts, getting decisive with the decision-making, once he does that naturally, I think he'll grow quickly. There are indeed a few more questions and a few more answers over here. They talk about his pacing improvements as the season has gone on, how his transition ability is. The coach says he can transition easily from defensive to the offensive zone. He's a powerful skater. A link will be in the description if you want to go ahead and read the entire interview of Barron's former coach in the AHL. But long story short, this guy's got a lot of potential. Do I see him becoming a number one right-handed defenseman? Probably not. I'd see him maxing out maybe as more of a top 4 guy, getting a solid, let's say, 20 minutes a night, who can contribute, let's say, 30, 40 points on a season, which usually kind of falls in the territory of 20th-ish overall first-round picks, right? And when you think about what the Canadiens gave up, I mean, one more year of Lehkonen for Barron and a second, you have yourselves the package that Colorado sent over. I think it's a really good trade still, man. I said it in the video back then, I'll say it again. But from Colorado to Montreal, if you're talking about the potential of a guy actually making the lineup, it's a lot more difficult to crack that Colorado blue line than it is the Montreal Canadiens. So let's just say for Barron, this is a better opportunity for him when it comes to hopefully being an NHL athlete. So it works all around, does it not? So let me know in the comments all your thoughts about Justin Barron as a prospect, as a defender, as a Montreal Canadiens player over here, and what you're expecting to see out of this guy when he eventually makes his debut sometime later in the next few days. I hope you enjoyed this video, Trolls 99, and bye.